So as I said, a lot of the elements that we first established in Sussy Strut are going to appear here in Larry's trick and many of the solos following this. Most importantly is we're going to be checking out the chord tones. How are we nailing these chord tones? Now what's happening in this solo is we got a different way about getting to notes that is a very cool thing to incorporate in your technique, and that is half step bend below your target note. Sometimes that note that you're bending from will be something that's cool, sometimes it won't be, but either way, it depends on how you phrase it. If it's not cool, make it a quick bend. If it is cool, maybe you can make it a slow bend. Or you have the choice to, even if it's cool, you can make it a quick bend. So right on the downbeat here in the first bar, it's all about chord tones against G7. We're in a G blues here, 12-bar G blues, and we're sliding into the 3 and going back and forth from 5 back to flat 3, but it's a half step bend to the 3. So instead of just this, it's cool, but this is even better. Is to come in to slide to the 3, get to the 5, and come in back of the 3 and half step bend to it. Gonna see this a lot. As a matter of fact, here it comes again. Now, what's happening here, this would be a movable permutation. Remember, we're talking about stationary permutations. This is a movable permutation. We're going to take the same idea, 3-5, flat 3 bend to 3, and we're going to put it over here on the second and first strings and play it to the chord tones, 4 chord being C7. So 3 is E, 5 is G, and we're going to come down below the E with E flat and bend back up to it. But the other little thing here is we're going to morph the rhythm. So instead of playing the swing eighths that we're doing here, you know, the 1 and 2, and we're going to do it with the triplet. You know, it's a nice little additive to the response, you know, from the initial idea. But same chord tone stuff, 3 and 5s. It's all about the 3 and 5s right now. Now we're going to shift position. Still playing, going back to the 1 chord, and you notice the 4 chord was anticipated by a half beat. You know, it's also anticipated by a flat 3 going into 3. We're going to do the same thing over here. So we're going to take the idea of coming into a 3, which we first established in the first bar, but we're going to anticipate it with the flat 3 on the upbeat, coming out of bar 2, and slide right into the 3 against the G7, which its 3 is B. We're going to come into there and just kind of think about this shape. Think about this G major arpeggio shape. It's kind of where it's coming from. So, but you're going to fly over to here. You're going to shift your hand position to catch the second to bend up to a 3. You know, 3 against the G7. So all about chord tones here. Into 3, 5, 3. The idea here is to get the chord tones out without just playing an arpeggio. So here we slid into the 3, and then we're coming over to stretch to bend to the 3. So that's the name of the game here, is play these chord tones, but also in a way that's cool. It makes your stuff, you know, sound hip and interesting. So from there, coming on down a beat 4 in bar 3, there's going to be a slide to the flat 7 with a grace note hammer-on to the root. So everything that's going on here is all about just those 4 primary chord tones out of G7, G, B, D, F. But I mean, just playing them like that, you know, is just not enough. So that's just an arpeggio. But here, you know, making your melody come alive, you have the slide, bend, slide, and then a grace note hammer. These are all important phrasing elements. From there, we're going to go into the 4 chord, and we're going to take that initial idea, pull the flat 3 to the floor, and ring out the 3rd. But there's going to be no permutation because we're not playing a different chord in bar 6. So just let it ring. You know, space sometimes it doesn't always mean silence. Sometimes space just means let a note sustain. Then we come into bars 7 and 8. We're going to take the idea, we're going to reiterate the theme or the motif that was played in bars 3 and 4. Same deal, just hit it again. You know, it ties in, it gives you something to come back to. It's really, it's a smart element to put into your solos where maybe your calls are a little different. And this is due to the chord changes. That's over the 1. That's over the 4. But we're always coming back to the 1 chord in 3 and 4 and bars 7 and 8. So why not play the same thing? Gives everybody something to grab onto. Coming to bars 9 and 10, keep it real simple. For the 5 chord, bending up to the 3rd. That's a tricky one sometimes when it comes to playing in, conventional 12 bars, playing the major 3rd of the 5 chord. Because it's pretty alien to the vibe of this being a G blues with a flat 7, flat 7. When you play that, when you bring in the element of what would be horizontally the major 7, you got to be careful. Here it works though, because it really works even more because you're going to come down, just talk the root here, play the root for a second, and then bam on the 4 chord. Little melodic voice leading here. You're going to bend up to a G. So you're coming from the F sharp, which is the 3rd of the 5, and then bending up to a G, which is the 5th of the 4 chord. So half-step relationship ties it in. It sounds good. Then to put it all together, you're going to take your initial idea and you're going to play it an octave up here, 10th position, and you're going to use the rhythm that you first brought in, anticipating the 2nd bar 4 chord, the triplet. So there's a juggling here of motivic development, and not just in the movable permutation, but also a little bit of a rhythmic permutation, whether it's playing the swing 8th feel or coming in and playing that triplet feel, the full triplet 8th feel. And the same deal as you did over the 4 chord. Slide into 3, 5, and come from below and hit that half step. So if you look at this solo on paper, there's a lot of connections here, both in melody and in the rhythm. Let's jump over to the second solo and see how we're going to further switch, these rhythmic motifs and melodic motifs, and see how we're going to develop them and embellish them a bit. So here we go. Second solo, G blues, Larry's Trick.